After the resurrection, 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 Jesus appeared to some disciples to restore their formation, especially those who had shown weaknesses. The resurrection is a reason for joy, but we must also take on our commitment each day. Let us listen carefully and learn from today's teachings. It happened like this. The disciples told what had happened on the road and how they had recognized Jesus in the breaking of the bread. They were still speaking when Jesus himself appeared in their midst and said to them, "Peace be with you." They were startled and filled with fear, thinking they were seeing a ghost. But Jesus said, "Why are you troubled? And why do doubts arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet. It's I myself. Touch me and see without forgetting. A ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you see that I have." And saying this, Jesus showed them his hands and his feet. But they still could not believe, because they were very joyful and amazed. Then Jesus said, "Do you have anything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of roasted fish. He took it and ate in front of them. Then he said to them, "These are the things I told you while I was still with you. Everything that is written about me had to be fulfilled in the law of Moses, in the prophets, and in the Psalms." Then Jesus opened the minds of the disciples so that they could understand the scriptures. And he said to them, "Thus it is written, the Christ will suffer and will rise from the dead on the third day. And in his name, repentance and the forgiveness of sins will be proclaimed to all nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You will be witnesses of all this." What do we learn from this passage? In these days, we have reflected that fear and sadness have prevented the disciples from recognizing Jesus after the resurrection. Yesterday, the disciples on the road to Emmaus only opened their eyes when Jesus broke the bread. And only then did they become joyful and return to meet the others and tell the news. In Jerusalem, the other disciples were joyful because Jesus had already appeared to some of them. Sometimes sadness makes us blind. However, excessive joy can also make us blind. Today, the disciples even came to think that they were seeing a ghost. But Jesus calls them back to reality, showing them his wounded hands and saying that he was hungry, something that ghosts do not have. Jesus wanted to remove the excess of euphoria from the disciples and bring them back to reality. Yesterday, he explained the scriptures so that they could understand everything that had happened. Today, Jesus explained that he had to die to rise again and to free us from all guilt. The resurrection of Jesus is not a Disney story that simply moves us emotionally and leaves us numb and ends there. Today, when Jesus showed the wounds in his hands, he wanted to say that we have an ordinary commitment with him in our daily lives. The resurrection is a reality that brings a message of hope for a better tomorrow, but it comes accompanied by wounds in the hands. The joy of the resurrection cannot make us forget our daily crosses. At the end of this passage, Jesus said that everything that happened in his passion, death, and resurrection is so that we may proclaim him, and so that through our proclamation and our witness of life, we may bring about conversions, so that there may be forgiveness of sins. Today we are invited to proclaim the hope of the resurrection, without forgetting that one does not reach the glory of the resurrection without first passing through the cross. He is risen, but the marks remain to remind us that true love passes through the cross. Announce this hope with your life. You are listening to Radio Palavra de Deus em Canção.